G'day everyone, and welcome to this information snippet about the SSSI Firewater Map-a-thon, lined up for the 31st of October 2020 and running for a full 24 hours around the globe. Find out more at ssi.org.au/events. This map-a-thon is leveraging the power of citizen science to collect information on static water supply infrastructure to help in bushfire preparedness efforts. In late 2019 and early 2020, Australia was hit by horrific megafires, and since then, fires have been burning around the world. SSSI are grateful to our sponsors, without which this map-a-thon would not be possible. The Victorian Government, Geoscience Australia, ICSM, NEARMAP, NGIS, the Grow Data Foundation, and the International Federation of Surveyors Volunteer Community Surveyors Program. Joining us today, we have Alena Moison from the Victorian Government Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning, interviewed by Madhavi Shankarling from SSSI Young Professionals.
What is static water supply infrastructure?
Sure. So static water supply infrastructure is anything man-made that allows a body of water to be stored. So these include water tanks, swimming pools, and dams. They can be used to store water for drinking, industrial, or farming purposes, particularly providing water sources for livestock, and to protect property from flooding and bushfire hazards, and of course for recreation.
Great. And why is capturing static water supply infrastructure so important for the Victorian Government, particularly as we come towards the bushfire season?
So Victoria has about 450,000 dams with a total storage capacity estimated at 13 million megalitres, which is about half of the average annual flow of water through the Murray. So it's a really significant feature in our landscapes. And then when we think about rainwater tanks, well, these are absolutely ubiquitous. I would hazard a guess of over 1 million of these in Victoria. And this infrastructure is hugely important to our economy, but also to safeguarding and improving our resilience against all kinds of threats, bushfires, droughts, and even flooding. So static water supplies are important in bushfire season across Australia, as you can imagine, because they can be used by fire authorities as sources of water to defend properties and people. So this keeps them from having to utilize mains water, which is impossible anyway in many rural communities. And during major bushfire events, those mains water supplies may be getting drawn down anyway by private property owners defending their own homes and businesses. So it gives firefighters more options, and it enables them to access critical water supplies more quickly and more efficiently. So knowing where these potential alternative sources of water exist can be useful for fire services during those emergencies, but they can also be helpful beforehand in planning for these events and ensuring that adequate supplies are available when and where they might be needed.
Okay, fantastic. And how do you see this data being able to be used into the future?
Right, so again, risk mitigation planning for communities is critical, but the data can also be used to assess and monitor changes in the availability of these static water sources in areas that are undergoing a lot of urban development. So these water sources are used by a range of local species, and as we see increasing urbanization extend into what had been agricultural land, it's important to continue to ensure that there are water sources to safeguard biodiversity in these landscapes. So while we may be looking at them from the lens of fire and bushfire risk, there are many other uses that this information will be used to help with.